2 minutes past 2:30. Let's start with good afternoon to everyone and welcome. Delighted that you're our webinar on bridging innovation and market adoption. We want to have a look on the CISERO roadmap and also discuss a bit the role of our ecosystem. My name is Matthias. I'm the coordinator of the CISERO project. Thanks for being here. I see that there are many participants from the European Cloud and Edge community, also from our initiative. And it's clear over the past years, Europe has made a lot of investments in building this next generation cloud edge infrastructures. And what we are seeing is that the developing of this innovative technology is only half of the story. All the discussion on the innovation gap or the valley of death. The real impact comes when the innovation reaches the market, is adopted by users, and creates value for business and society. And yeah, as said, that's not always an easy journey, and this is exactly why CISERO was initiated, because we are a support action that supports exploitation and dissemination of the results of the ORA initiative. And we do this by providing a collaborative platform with a marketplace and the library where you see the reference architecture and so on. And also, of course, an open source discovery point where you can see the different components that are already available as open source. But our role is also how we can help in terms of market adoption. And this is where we want to work with the broader ecosystem to better understand market needs, identify opportunities, and by that support collaboration across the cloud edge domain among different players. And in this context, we have this CISERO roadmap that brings in the market insight that our partner IDC has. And today's webinar gives us the opportunity to explore some of these insights together. So we will start with looking at the latest findings of the roadmap work and the challenges ahead, and then also turn to the topic why open source becomes increasingly important. This will be then done by Marcel. And yeah, we want to have a discussion with you also on our ideas, on new perspectives, and perhaps also even on new collaborations. I see, as I said, many ORA projects here. So Marcello and Leo will be your contact point to get into discussions on how the roadmap can be developed further. So thanks again for joining us today. I hope you will enjoy our webinar, and I have now the pleasure to hand over to Marcello. Marcello Bardellini is our first speaker. He is from IDC. And Marcello, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Matthias, for the nice introduction, and welcome everybody to this webinar. It's actually a pleasure for me to take you through the roadmap that we have, that Matthias has just shared with you in terms of the objectives, mission, and so on. So my duty now is to give a little bit of context in terms of role of where we are, the results that we got since now, and what's ahead of us. Pleasure once again. I'm Marcello Bardellini from IDC, and within CISERO IDC, we are exactly leading this part on really supporting IPCEI-CIS project results exploitation by providing market insights. So we looked at the market first, And then we do analyze what's coming out of the projects, all the relations, and so on, in order to make sure that the strategy that we provide is really aligned also to market need, and there's a mutual exchange of information. So again, once again, to enable us to support you and all the projects in making their road successful to market adoption. So, and really the vision of this report is again to really combine the two sides. So we periscope the market, see what are the appetites external for the different solutions, see which are the main challenges and barriers from the market perspective, and then also from your perspectives in terms of project related pathways to market adoption. So this approach is really enabling to bridge the two sides and really designing a pathway for the outputs of the project to really exit from being just confined into the project themselves, but to ensure that they have a future and the market waiting for them. So as part of this activity, we started with the analysis of the market and to define which is the current state of the cloud edge fabric in Europe. And we did that via doing a specific survey and using IDC own proprietary data and doing some secondary research activities, likewise involving our pool of thematic experts in providing insights and feedback over the trends and the opportunities and the challenges. And with all of this information, we have produced the first version of the roadmap. That is the one that my colleague Leo will show you later on over the main findings for really disseminating them on this webinar. So that's the real first concrete block of activity, and that took us busy until the start of this year. And then as we moved into the current present period, then we have started to analyze and to get connections with all of US projects in order to start grasping what is the other side of the market, so the supply, the technology. So, and we started with the project analysis data, so objectives, time frame, impact, and technologies. And with this, we have devised and designed a survey that enables us to collect some primary data from your side that enables us to understand which is the maturity and which are the bottlenecks that you're experiencing, likewise in moving the results forward, so that we are then in the position to advise over possible solutions to overcome those. And that's going to be really the next step. So once we gather this information with all of you, we will be doing gap analysis in really to matching the two sides, the demand and the supply, in order to once again ensure that there's a coherent path towards adoption. And this is going to be the focus of the next activities that we will be doing until the release of the updated version of the roadmap. That's going to be the complete one that takes into account both sides of the market. And let's talk and stay focused on this very first one over the market analysis that we have currently available, published, and is subject to the current webinar. So how this is structured. So for each of the topic, we provide market trends in terms of maturity, development, use cases related, overview and strategic relevance for Europe, global competitive landscape, so which are the main players involved, the ecosystem. This is also always very on the move, so we capture that, and that's why also we do gap analysis afterwards, just to keep this up to date. We periscoped challenges and opportunities as barriers to adoption, potential innovation, and development needs, once again, to ensure that these areas and technologies are being developed. Of course, this is something that we want to cautiously keep an eye on. And the core contribution is really to bring in a market-oriented perspective, so to complement the European technical and policy roadmap. It's building on established frameworks and roadmaps like the European Alliance for Industrial Edge, Data, Edge and Cloud, and the Nexus Forum. And as you mentioned, this market analysis is broad, both because it takes into account a comprehensive set of technical and non-technical building blocks. So with the technical one, like infrastructure, cloud edge capabilities, telco, connectivity, and open source. And as non-technical building blocks, we have skills, sustainability, business models. So these are all ingredients that are really analyzed case by case over the roadmap description. So this is really the core contribution of CISERO with this respect and this current roadmap. Here is just few teasers that will then be further elaborated by my colleague Leo later on over the structural challenges that we have identified and opportunities for European differentiation. So we see challenges in the dominance of non-European providers in cloud and AI markets, fragmentation, skill shortages, and fragmentation in terms of regulations and procurement. So that really complicates cross-border deployment. And then, but also we see some running opportunities for European differentiation through open federated architectures, solvency by design approaches, trust. Trust is a really important point with this respect for an opportunity there, and integration of technical and non-technical enablers into coherent offerings, because they always go together side by side. Here, if you have your mobile phone at hand, of course, you can just visualize the two QR codes, to the first one to download the roadmap, and the second one to start filling out the survey that we have recently started to promote to once again start our work over the supply side, getting data directly from the IPCEI-CIS projects that enables us really to understand what's the status of each of the project and to really design tailored pathways for exploitation in face of the results achieved and the market tractions that we've seen. Of course, this will be provided as a link also after the conclusion of the webinar in the follow-up message. And then as the next step, to get us towards the updated version of the roadmap, we have kickstarted the supply side, as I mentioned, analysis via the IPCEI-CIS PMO, with whom we are collaborating constantly on this respect. Then we will be doing follow-on interviews, including one or two projects per work stream for like deep diving on specific projects and angles that we would like to explore further. Then the final period will be dedicated to keep an eye over the latest market trends and analyzing any gaps that we have seen and any further development that we haven't considered in the first version of the roadmap, in such a way to get to the final version that is due in 1 year from now, to really complete and up-to-date information across both demand and supply sides. So thank you very much for your attention. Mine was really a short introduction, just to kind of give you an overview of the work that we have done, what's in front of us for the near future. And then I would pass the floor to Marcel. so that we can talk about open source.
Yes, thank you very much, Marcello. Just taken over the screen. You should be able to see something.
Yes.
Great, this is the case. Thank you very much. So nice to have you here. My name is Marcel. I'm working for DLR Projektträger and also within the CISERO project, having an eye on open source related questions. And today I will have the opportunity to talk about open source as a force multiplier, even for CISERO or for the Aura ecosystem, and how it can support the endeavors within the IPCEI-CIS project, and also the goals which have been set on European level. So to answer the question how open source can positively impact the transfer of developed software and developed ideas within Aura, we need to answer and have a look on the potential of open source. And to answer this, I would like to guide you through the political agenda of open source. You should be able to see the second slide. So starting on the left-hand side, I would like to start with a view on the geopolitical agenda in terms of open source. So as you can see, open source is not only a kind of framework or a kind of practice in creating software code, it's also a political instrument, or it became a political instrument in the near past. So the United States of America have mentioned it within their AI action plan as a central pillar and as a catalyst for innovation. And they have even named it like that. They want to use open source AI to set global standards and use open source in order to increase the global influence of AI products based on American values. And that's not only applicable for the United States. If we also have a look to the East, China has mentioned open source also within its 5-year plan. And even there, it is a central pillar for the national digital strategy. And they also want to use open source, not like the Americans, but they also want to have this openness character in order to expand their Chinese models and also increase their influence of their models on the market in order to expand their technological autonomy towards the West. We will have the possibility to also get through a detailed example in a minute, but let me continue with the perspective of the European Union on open source. So you might have heard it last month. The tech sovereignty package was released by the Commission, and the EU open source strategy is also a central agenda within this package. And the Commission there describes different objectives and goals, how open source should support the competitiveness of Europe. But we will have the possibility to get there into detail in a second as well. So looking on the right-hand side, what is the leverage, or what leverage does open source have in general? So this is based on the findings of a Linux study, and they found that open source AI, to use this example, so open source is applicable to many different functionalities or applications, but just looking at open source AI, it is cheaper to deploy open source than any other proprietary AI, and so you're able to save cost. And this can be done not sacrificing performance. So if you use open source products, they are more or less in the same area like the proprietary models. So the performance of open source AI solutions is almost comparable to those which are proprietary. Last but not least, open source can also positively impact AI innovation. So if you develop within an open source community, if you are located within an open source community, you have positive impacts on open source innovation as well. All right, as I mentioned, I want to guide you through a specific example, and therefore I want to point out what has been just released in the past days. You might have heard it. It's actually everywhere in the media right now. Moonshot AI, the Chinese company, has just released its new model called Kimi-K3, and based on certain benchmarks, AI benchmarks. As you can see here from the pictures, I just used data from the benchmarking platform Artificial Analysis, but on other benchmarking websites, you can see the same effects. I think it's pretty valid that Kimi-K3 is more or less comparable among the leading models provided by Anthropic, like Claude Fable, as you can see here on the left-hand side, or as you can also see here, OpenAI's GPT-5.6. So Kimi-K3 is, in terms of intelligence, on the third place, and it is planned to release the parameters from Kimi in a couple of days. So on 27th of July. Kimi-K3 will be an open weights model, and that means you can easily adapt or apply this open source model on your own premises without using the Chinese infrastructure, for example. In the background, you don't have to consider any danger in data loss or whatever. So considering that you have the same performance and looking at the right-hand side, less cost or less effort than like with OpenAI or Anthropic. There will be a serious shift in the market, and for certain use cases, Kimi-K3 could be used as a kind of alternative. I just want to point out it's not that easy as always, so you need to consider that there is some qualitative differences between the services from Anthropic and OpenAI. So Kimi mentioned, or Moonshot AI mentioned, that there is a little bit more of hallucination ongoing in the model, and some other topics like political questions in the background of the Chinese models, whatever. But I think the message is clear. Open source has a huge power to disrupt certain technologies in this area. All right, so switching to the question and looking at ourselves. So what is Europe's role in this context? I just want to get a little bit more into detail in regards to the activities of the Commission, because the European Union also understood the power of open source and its potential. And as I initially mentioned, the Commission released the tech sovereignty package on beginning of June, and one part of this tech sovereignty package is the EU open source strategy. There is some other parts within the sovereignty package, for example, like the Cloud and AI Development Act, the second part of the CHIPS Act, and also another strategic roadmap for the energy sector. But as this is about open source, I want to go more into detail in this regard. So as you can see here, there are 4 different objectives mentioned within the open source strategy. And this is not everything what is standing behind each and every objective. So I would like to invite you to just follow the sources. You will receive the material afterwards and get yourself familiar with the details behind each and every objective. And yeah, this is only a sort of ideas behind the single objective. So first goal of the open source strategy is to promote technical sovereignty by supporting and reinforcing the usage of already existing open source solutions. It is also planned to build European alternatives to reduce the dependency from the East and the West. Additionally, the open source strategy is intended to push and strengthen the open source ecosystems within Europe and support foundations and institutions, alliances, whatever, with funding money in order to support their open source related activities. Objective number 3 is pointing in the direction of public administrations. And I think that's a huge point. So they want to develop procurement guidelines for open standards. So from my point of view in Germany, there's a shift already ongoing. Public administrations are switching from one provider to the others because of significant advantages. And this is also intended to be pushed within the objective number 3 as well, in order to, also reduce costs for the public administration. Objective number 4 is in terms or in regards to standards and outreach. They also want to set digital standards and reinforce international leadership to set standards for open source development within Europe. The goals which are tried to be achieved right here is, of course, increasing the interoperability so that small and also bigger companies have the possibility to switch between one provider and the other, not only for companies applicable, so also for private consumers, obviously. It also increases the security because you have transparency about the code. You can adapt it whatever wherever you are developing with your business. So you're not depending on the agenda of a proprietary software provider. So you can adapt it by your own requirements. And as I already mentioned, the choice between the single providers and the accessibility is intended to be lowered, and especially for public administrations and small medium enterprises, it will be possible to access the certain applications. All right, and now I want to answer how Aura, how IPCEI-CIS, and also CISERO is positively affecting the EU open source strategy. So having in mind what the different goals of the EU open source strategies are, we can definitely say that we support the goals of the strategy by developing the first ever multi-provider cloud edge continuum due to the accessibility and its interoperability character. So everybody who wants to join can participate and benefit from the structure or the network. I also want to point out the Neo-Nephos Foundation, which has been founded last year, and they are also doing a great job. I would also like to invite you to just visit their homepage and have a look at the single projects. There are a lot of projects ongoing, and this is also a good platform, a great foundation to increase transparency and the yeah, to get an insight of the single activities which are ongoing in this area. Last but not least, we within the CISERO project also take care of supporting the community with and around open source by connecting stakeholders, making webinars and events like this, and share best practices. Matthias initially also mentioned the open source discovery point, and want to strengthen the collaboration within our Aura ecosystem, and want to support every project by applying open source. So in the end, I would like to point out the next steps and make yourself aware of the following two points. So as I already mentioned, if you have developed something and want to set it open source, I would like to invite you to visit our open source software discovery point. Just scan this QR code or just visit the open source discovery point on our CISERO homepage. And if you have developed something, feel free to take the survey. It can be done pretty fast. You just need to indicate what you have developed, the features, which open source license is allocated. And let's increase the distribution and the transparency of what we have already developed, and transfer the knowledge what we have gained in the past. Additionally, we're currently also creating the open source guidelines, which will also be a kind of generic overview of general open source terms and how you can, for example, engage with open source foundations and communities. And this is currently under discussion and will be published in the next month. That's it from my side. And in case you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. And I would now like to hand over back to Leonardo. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully,
hi,
you're hearing me now.
Yes.
I'm keeping my camera off because my computer is acting up a little bit, but hopefully you can see the screen. Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, we can see the screen. We hear you. Just go ahead, Leo.
Thank you so much. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining today. So I'm Leonardo Freitas. I'm a research manager here at IPCEI. So we're a tech advisory firm, and together with Marcello Bardellini, who presented earlier, we've been leading the sustainability roadmap work on CISERO's work package 2. So for the next few minutes, I want to take you through the market realities as well, and some of the strategic opportunities that the first version of the roadmap surfaced as well for IPCEI-CIS project. So this is a deep dive, which is less about the policy ambition and more about what the data says that tech buyers actually want here in Europe, right? So here's the shape of the session. So first, I'm going to take you through 3 demand-side signals from the roadmap, one on AI, another one on sovereignty, and another one on skills. So this is actually feedback from our expert network as well at IDC, plus several surveys that we've been running as well on a syndicated manner for the past years. Second, we'll zoom out a little bit from those demand-side signals and talk about competitive landscape, right? So how IPCEI-CIS projects stack up against the hyperscalers and where telco cloud opens some real ground for competition here. And then third, I'll end on a few recommendations as well that projects can start acting on this year. I'm sure some of these recommendations they've already been working on, but just a few things to list, right? So let me set the scene quickly here, because IPCEI-CIS so far has done a great job on what it set out to do, especially on the research and development side, right? We have multiple member states participating. We have over 100 partners. So it's a generally unprecedented effort to coordinate everything. But where the wider European roadmap landscape is a bit thinner is on the go-to-market side, right? So we have the Alliance roadmaps, we have the Nexus Forum roadmaps, describing very well what Europe should build. But we didn't speak a lot about who buys or how the project reaches the paying customer. So kind of the last leg of everything that will be built. Because realistically, even the most technically strong outputs, they can then end up just living on the pilots and the press releases, if not what it builds it further, if there's no market case around them, right? So that's one of the gaps that CISERO is aiming to help close in here as well. So this should be sitting alongside the policy roadmaps as a market lens as well to support the projects going forward on the adoption phase. So everything I'll show you today actually maps into this framework as well. So it's worth a few seconds just to orient, right? Because we have 5 technical building blocks here, and as you can see, they aim to also mirror some of the work streams that we have on IPCEI-CIS, right? So infrastructure, the cloud edge capabilities, the data processing, the applications, and so on, and also down to, for example, open source and standards, right? So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but we're trying to match the technical roadmaps with our capabilities as well of providing more granular market analysis for all of those building blocks. And then there are also 5 non-technical building blocks underneath it. So we're talking skills, we're talking sustainability, the business environment, the business models, and also the sovereignty, right? Because they cross-cut across the technical side. And the point of putting them side by side here was deliberate, because to us, and the more we observe the tech market, the more we see that market success for solutions, they depend on non-technical building blocks as well as much as the technical ones, right? So you can have a brilliant piece of infrastructure, but if there's no skill pipeline and there's no pathway to adoption, the offers might not scale, right? So one thing before we dive in as well, when I get to recommendations later, I'll reference some of the work streams, but of course, I highly encourage you to read the roadmap reports, the first version that we published at the beginning of this year, because there's much more to it than what we're gonna see in this session. And hopefully, once you read it as well, you can come back to us. We have our open doors as well to discuss some of these results with you and have you help us shape as well the next iterations of the roadmap report. So let's start with the first demand signal here, which is about AI, right? So Gen AI adoption in Europe, for example, is already here. Like we see, according to some of our IDC surveys, around 77% of European companies are already using it, at least the Gen AI side, for productivity, creative work, knowledge search. So it is already going beyond pilot, right? But agentic AI, obviously quite novel, which is the side of AI where systems will have and act with more autonomy as well. This is slightly different picture. One, because it's still being developed by the tech industry. Like there are many use cases being rolled out, but adoption obviously is a bit more cautious. So for example, in Europe, we have around 28% of EU companies already using or piloting agents into their workflow. And I think it's worth highlighting here as well. It's not on this slide, but we have 45% for North American companies and around 43% for APJ, so Asia Pacific companies. So that adds an important nuance for our roadmap as well, because when we start comparing the different buyer groups from different regions as well, of course, there's a question of readiness, there's a question of regulation on our continent, some sovereignty requirements, budget cycles, but there's also potential cultural preference as well in Europe for caution over speed, right? So because the orchestration and deployment, they're already being shaped, but how we're going to inspire trust into the final tech buyers as well is equally important to what we are developing, right? So, for example, as a recommendation for projects now working on AI workflows, or for example, embedding agents as well within different IPCEI-CIS is about building the explainability and audit trail sides as well into the agentic AI features now. Because European companies, once they while they're planning this adoption, they want this higher level of clarity as well, and what that means to their infrastructure and what will be the next step of it for them as well. Then let's move to the next one, which is a second segment. I think this one about sovereignty sometimes gets a little bit mistold, because when we asked European organizations at IPCEI why they're moving to sovereign cloud, right, the headline reason turns out to be more cybersecurity, and also, for example, expanded cloud use instead of geopolitical uncertainty. Obviously, geopolitical uncertainty is kind of that umbrella, that englobes as well the cybersecurity side, but that's the kind of the aspect that gets more of the press coverage, right? So, I mean, of course, it's worth flagging the geopolitical side, but when it comes to going to market with those solutions as well, we need to look at those like more granular building blocks on why companies are adopting and what they actually want out of those sovereign solutions as well. And some of these industries, some of these companies, they're still deciding, and they're still trying to understand and navigate through what's being offered in the market. So, for example, for IPCEI-CIS projects on the sovereign side, one of the recommendations that we laid on the first version of the roadmap is to lead their commercial narrative as well with the cybersecurity side, with the regulatory side, since these are the kind of the two biggest, most quantifiable drivers so far in the data. Of course, we have to keep the geopolitical framing kind of in reserve, and there are markets where this stands out a little bit more. But it's important to really shape that messaging behind sovereignty in a way that the tech buyers understand, and in a way that tech buyers will get C-level as well buy in to be able to bid or to be able to kind of adopt those new solutions. The next one is about skills, right? And this is one that actually shows up as a constraint in almost every section of the report as well, because we see, despite the adoption of AI and despite, for example, some revolution on how certain job roles and certain departments are doing work now, the skills gap is pretty present, right? It's affecting the majority of companies, not only in Europe, but worldwide. It has quantifiable as well, like financial impact. And when it comes to new solutions, we need to think about upskilling as an adoption pathway as well. All right, so it's creating the solution is just one part, and when we see the effort, for example, from the hyperscaler side on the learning and development initiatives, because you have to create that ecosystem, right? So when it comes to what IPCEI-CIS is creating here, we need to think about how to reference our architectures and our open source tooling into training content as well, into hands-on labs, and that needs to be treated as core project deliverables. It cannot be an afterthought, right? Because the adoption will go through how much those end user companies will know about the solutions being created as well. And this needs to be very well crystallized when those solutions get to market. And we need to kind of prepare the market for it as much as we can beforehand. So moving on, and now let's zoom out a little bit and talk about the competitive landscape, right? And the reality on public cloud infrastructure as well in our continent. So in Europe, the top 5 providers, they're all non-European, right? And they control roughly, if we sum up IaaS and PaaS, 83% of the market. There's only one European player on the top 7, which is T-Systems, but the rest of the players, they're all non-EU. And here's a part I want to spend a moment on as well, because I think it changes a little bit the tone of this conversation, right? The hyperscalers are not sitting still on sovereignty either. So we have, for example, AWS standing up and creating a separately incorporated European sovereign cloud in Germany that was officially launched in January. You have Google Cloud as well building its own sovereign toolkit. There's, for example, the data boundary for controlling where content is stored. There's a cloud dedicated as well, which is delivered to an independent local partner. There's air-gapped. Microsoft is also matching those efforts with the Data Guardian. So we see a massive movement as well on the hyperscaler side to try and tick the boxes to what they believe and what's being released as sovereign requirements in the continent, right? And Our own surveys as well, they kind of back up how effective this has been market-wise. Because when we asked European organizations how growing interest in sovereignty will change their cloud and IT usage over the next few years, the appetite for switching mostly or exclusively to local providers is still quite limited, right? So the sovereign pie is growing, and the hyperscalers are acting on it, and they want a slice of that pie too, right? So that's generally tough competition as well for IPCEI-CIS projects. I'm not saying it's impossible. It is not. You know, I think there's space there, but we need to understand the development pace of those hyperscalers as well, so we can mirror some of these functions and bring some of these functions and see where we can actually compete, right? Because if we go, for example, one layer up, especially on the multi-cloud tooling and the orchestration, the picture brightens a little bit more on the EU side. So that space on the tooling and orchestration is far more contested. We have global vendors as well, but we have European providers, and we have the CNCF, the open source community. They're all competing on a more even ground as well. And that's exactly where, for example, European Federation plays, they're appearing a bit more, right? With simple middleware, with their Tora, with Eurostack, they're all building shared APIs as well on sovereign control plane. So the message for IPCEI-CIS projects is a two-way here, right? Outscaling the pace of the hyperscalers on raw infrastructure is not easy, right? I mean, there are of course niches that can be won there, but they're also developing their own sovereign solutions. They're also like, you know, converging with the requirements that are being asked. So that part hasn't changed. But given the sovereign toolkit as well, we just walked through, you know, keeping up with what they're doing and what the hyperscalers are building on sovereign is a baseline requirement for all these projects now. And even as you focus as well on real competitive energy, like on the federate layer, you need to understand what's happening across the board. Then next point here is about the telco cloud as well, because telcos obviously are natural partners will this continue, right? Because they already own the physical distribution network and everything else that runs on. So the global edge computing span is expected to increase. You know, it's actually expected to hit $261 billion this year. The EU Digital Decade also has its own targets as well for 10,000 plus climate neutral edge nodes in Europe. But here's a detail worth pausing on as well, because the single most common edge workload today is security, right? Security, automated threat, intelligence monitoring, because the attack surface at the edge is simply a bit more exposed than what's inside the data centers. Also, it's worth remembering that the same hyperscalers on the last slide as well, they aren't confined just to core clouds, right? So we have AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud already forming the backbone of a lot of the cloud edge service delivered today. So telco operators and IPCEI-CIS projects, they need to keep pace as well with hyperscaler edge capabilities as well as table stakes here, right? So the differentiation will come from more open, interoperable telco cloud designs, but also through understanding and really evaluating which features we can compete tete-a-tete with them. Okay, so one more step back now, and let's look at the four things we've covered. And again, there's much more on the actual report as well, so really encourage you to read it. But we've touched on as well that shows up again and again, especially when we look at the report, which is the sheer fragmentation as well, how the projects are being laid out, right? We have dozens of sovereign language models projects across Europe. There's a kind of spreading resources thing instead of pooling them. We have some levels of national divergence as well, the different data localization rules. So this fragmentation is something that still, I mean, obviously it was raised at the beginning of IPCEI-CIS, but it's something we need to tackle. You know, we need to basically optimize the resources we already have, and we already have a lot of the ingredients that we need for a competitive sovereign cloud edge stack, but we need to align a bit better what already exists. So with that, I want to take you through a few of the priorities today as well, because the roadmap's own project level gap analysis that we're still working on, and we're going to talk a bit more about the IPCEI-CIS survey later on. Again, it already shows signs that go beyond the demand data analysis that we've done, right? So there are kind of two groups here of priorities. The first one that the roadmap identified is for projects to package sovereignty as a real value proposition as well. That is tuned to their specific work stream, right? Because sovereignty might mean different things for the different work stream. Once the projects go to market, all those sovereignty narratives or sub-sovereignty narratives by work stream, they need to be aligned as well to kind of form the final go-to-market strategy that those solutions will form. So this needs to be done. The second is about starting building agentic AI trust capability now as well. We see that in Europe, adoption of agentic AI is still cautious. It is obviously happening, but tech buyers want to see and wants to gauge the trust in these solutions prior to adopting them. So it's important to put some emphasis here on the trust side. The third one is about turning the outputs of your projects, the documentation, into training, right, as deliverables. And this cannot be an afterthought. Again, upskilling, and it will be an important, I'd say one of the most crucial parts for adoption later on the next phase. Then the second set is more like work stream by work stream, but still worth highlighting some of them here. So, for example, certifying your architecture, right? To not leave conformance implicit as well. We need independent certification pathways. We need ways to basically approve that the compliance that we're creating will be holding up. So we don't let this affect as well the trust across the whole ecosystem. The next one is about design for life as well, because we need to think about funding mechanisms after IPCEI-CIS stops, right? Because most of the IPCEI-CIS projects, they run on 3 to 5 years of public funding. So thinking about the sustainability planning beyond that period is paramount right now. If projects haven't thought about it yet, they need to put a plan together as soon as possible. And the last one is about plugging into shared standards as well in community rather than just duplicating them. And that's where the role of, for example, ORA, GaiaX, CISERO, even CISERO's own collaboration platform comes into play as well. You know, what are the efforts? We need to connect with our ecosystem to understand if we're not duplicating efforts in some areas, to understand where we can actually leverage something that maybe is already done and we might be working on from scratch, but we might have a much more advantageous starting point if we collaborate across the ecosystem. And that's it from my side. I mean, I'd love to open up this now with one question. I mean, you see what we have an exercise now, so this question will be taken. But I'll hand things over to Marcello from IGC again. He'll take you through the next exercise. I'd like to thank you for your time. And just reiterate that we're here as well. Our doors are open. If you want to talk to us after you read the roadmap report, we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much. Over to you, Marcello.
Thank you very much, Leonardo, for taking us through the main findings and like triggering also some of the key relevant points outlined resulting from the roadmap. Again, the invitation will be to really go back to the whole document because once again, there's a lot of additional details and so on. Thank you very much to Trustee colleagues who are already putting up on the technicalities for proceeding with the interactive sections that we have foreseen. Meaning that so this section we would like to you to join us on Slido. You can scan the QR code just up that you see on the screen, or go to slido.com. It's not anymore on the screen. Thank you. So that, yeah, we started with these together some inputs from your side, and that could, we could take over from this part in order to then shape the next step that I mentioned to you, like at the very start. So we started with the demand side and with the deep dives provided by Leo, but now we are totally in the mode to complement this demand with information from survey or other activities from like the supply side and project side. So we want to have this interactive session just to kickstart this activity, periscoping the supply side. So we will be casting some questions, and the first one is already there. So the first one is, what would make the IPCEI-CIS project and market a success by 2030 from your side? So you're we would like to ask you to join us with Slido and interact in there. Of course, you can also add the comments in the chat box in relation to the different presentations that we have delivered to you today, and we will be collecting them feedback and come back to you, of course. So if you can join the slide, we would have a few slides that will take us busy for the next 15 minutes, I would say. And this is going to be like the first one, setting the scene. It's really high level suggestion and just forecasting what is going to be making IPCEI-CIS market a success by 2030. I see different people typing, so yeah, joining, and of course federability is kind of the main keyword that up to now is about like shared opinion among the audience that we have today. Orchestration is also there, participation, cohesion. So this is all about matching and then orchestrating all the different parts and actors, so also in the value chain. Yeah, adoption from industry. Yeah. So again, yeah, that's of course something that we're looking at in our survey and our analysis. So that's really the scope of the roadmap, to investigate which are the industry and the demand signs appetite. It's good. I still see a number of contributors, so I wouldn't like to stop this because this is really the first one setting the scene. Then we would have others. I would just leave the last one typing. I see typing. Yeah. As mentioned, we also welcome comments in chat that are coming likewise. So thank you for that. That's great. So thank you. Yeah. These are a number of actual points that we have tackled here and there, but there are some clear indication over industrial adoption awareness, market savviness of the solutions and on the tractions and on the bottlenecks and on the trends. So great. We can pass to the next one. The usefulness of the roadmap. So we have just casted now, which are the key points, the dynamics over the roadmap that we have designed as of now. And so we would like to gather your feedback and what you found interesting and actionable from the from the words that I talked at the start, just the high level key messages plus the deep dives provided by my colleague Leonardo Freitas, as you might have been captured by some of angles that you find actionable in your context. So this is really the place that helps us to understand the how this can be operationalized, like the roadmap itself as a functional tool and an actionable tool. So it is important to us to understand this level of actionability. We also see some participants leaving, so I once again to whoever he is leaving. So thank you very much for having been here, and we will remain in touch for sure. So once again, if you can just tell us, what is actionable in your context as demand, okay. Yeah, any additional point? I see that people are contributing. So once again, your input is really valuable because it helps us also to shape the next step. Likewise, so the way we shape the narrative over the next for the next edition. Sorry, it's a bit selling point. Yeah, learning, upskilling. This is about the non-technical activities and skills that we have investigated. Likewise, beyond the technical side. So, yeah, these are all interrelated, of course. So, yeah, security. Okay, would leave the last person typing or okay. Here we are. I think we can move to the next one, please. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, I see that you have already gone to the next question that is about what's missing in the roadmap. Again, just filling what we have been sharing with you on today. So again, these are points for us for further investigation in the next version of the roadmap itself. How to frame sovereignty, the tech buyers, go for it.
Marcello, if I can just add in here as well,
yes,
on
please.
the sovereignty side, because on the roadmap report, I think it's worth highlighting that we have some data as well by industry sector on sovereignty priorities. I think it'll be worth for whoever asked this question to take a look at that section of the report as well, and happy to have a separate discussion about it as well because we have more data on it.
Thanks a lot, Leonardo, for chipping in. Thank you. And again, yeah, this is not the only opportunity to interact over this topic, over the roadmap itself. As mentioned, we have our contact details shared with all of you. You can come back to us at any time. We invite you warmly to look at the report and the roadmap document by yourself, also because again it was hard to package and deliver all the insights and angles and shades of the market dynamics of course in a webinar with a reasonable duration, of course. So yeah, we invite you that to further deep dive of yourself, but we remain available for further discussions, as mentioned also by my colleague Leonardo. So we can move to the next one, please. Yeah, right here we start by really casting a broad question in relation to, once again, what would you need to then take your results forward to the market? And this is going to be like our guiding question. So assessing your status, project maturity, and so on, but also the kind of support that we as CISERO can provide you in meeting this expectation. And so that we really design a roadmap that, again, it is actionable, it is tailored as much as possible to your needs, to your ecosystem, to your products delivered, and so on, so that we want this to be to strongly resonate for you. So we start by asking a very general but open question also. So what do you, as a project, what's your need, and what in terms of support that we can give you? I see you're typing.
Maybe Marcel,
Okay,
if there are no
I'm not
answers here.
seeing, yeah, I'm not seeing
Yeah.
results exactly. So yeah, we can move forward then to the next one. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Now
so
the word
okay.
cloud was okay. Now the results are coming.
go on.
Okay. So collaboration, support, and I guess industrial also support, traction, understanding the demand. So yeah, I can't read it properly, but still, yeah, this is a good insight. So thank you very much for taking time for answering today's question. So if we go to the next one. Okay, this is about different mode. It's about understanding which are the biggest challenging in exploiting the project outputs. So this is about yeah, ranking them. So that's a multiple answer question. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's great to see that market access. Then we have this good quantity of other answers, and I was wondering if we have the option to see which are these, what is meant by other. Getting people outside of our bubble to know. Okay. Funding regulation and leadership support. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So we can move to the next one. Yeah, here we open up really the floor to you on, yeah, we have outlined the structure of what we have done until now, and the next step for ourselves in terms of tasks, activities, and points of interactions with the IPCEI-CIS projects. So again, in light of really combining also and enriching the roadmap with data directly from the project itself and make it sound a smooth connection. But again, we want to open this process also to your points, inputs, and feedback in such a way that we grasp what is in your wish list somehow for the next version of the ROPA. So how would you like this to look like? Which kind of contents you would like to be featured there to make it more sound to you, more actionable? So think of this question in this light. So that's your opportunity to kind of direct also and give us input for the next edition of the roadmap. So our role is specifically to support IPCEI-CIS projects exploitation. So we really need to. We have a process, of course, but we also really want to tailor this process as much as possible to your needs and be really of help for you. More about sustainability, environmental and socially, a clear roadmap, the real path for achieving an initial strategic goal. Okay. All right. Okay. So we go to the next one. Thank you so much. We do have like a couple of questions and a slide of more. So this is one. So we want to understand what is the go-to-market ecosystem fit from your side. And here we have shaped some answers and potential position in which you might find yourself in. There should be also an other open answer somehow included. Yes. So please, if you can just position yourself, this would help us to kind of map the situations in terms of go-to-market and ecosystem fit, and again providing some insights over the next over where we need to focus on to make this connection smoother and avoid gaps in between. Okay, apparently this was quick in terms of answers, so thank you very much. We are landing to the last question. In here, we want to go back also and feature one of the topics, of course, that we covered during this webinar, that was about the open source. So, and here we would like to ask you about the challenges that you see for open source in your project.
Just to reiterate here as well, so this exercise is more to gauge some of the kind of the key aspects of how we're going to follow through the roadmap, but of course doesn't substitute the workstream survey that we've put together as well, and we shared the QR code. So I'd really encourage you, if you're part of an IPCEI-CIS project now, please help us by filling the survey, because with the survey, we'll be able to be much more surgical as well and go into the detail of the different work streams, of the different challenges. The responses will be anonymized as well, so we won't use a specific project for the final report, and it will help us a lot on shaping the roadmap going forward. And of course, I've left my details as well in the chat. So even if you're not comfortable with filling out the survey, but you want to talk to us, we're super open to it. We can set up a Teams call, have a discussion about your own challenges, and see how we can best help you as well as CISERO to address these.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Leonardo. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, as mentioned by my colleague. Okay, the slide is section. Gabriel, I think it's over. We didn't have. Yeah, we wanted to have just a little taste of the water, let's say. But as also mentioned by my colleague Leonardo, we need to have more deep discussion and information and insight from your side, as mentioned, via the survey that we have promoted and that we will be promoting also in the thank you and in the rehearsal message that we will send over. And also, please do feel free to reach out to us and contact us, because we really needed this information and input. But as long as today was concerned, once again, I take this opportunity to thank you very much for this interaction moment. We gathered some very useful inputs and hints that we will further explore. And with this said, I would hand over to Matthias for the concluding remarks from our side. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Well, I think we heard a lot of different perspectives. Some sound very familiar, some also new. I mean, what's the main aspect from Marcel's talk is, for me, the change in perception of open source that I see, because well, somehow astonishing that the US see open source as a somehow a tool to set global standards, and this is a bit in contradiction to the usual way we see open source as the typical way for the second row organizations that prefer this strategy to then leapfrog, but also the incumbents seem to now see open source as an important lever. And therefore, it's good that we have it also in the roadmap as one of the technical building blocks. And yeah, the market lens. I mean, as I said, some things sound already familiar. We know how the market looks like. We also know a bit of course, about Gen AI adoption and for Edge AI, and when AI will come up more. So there, I think it's good to look what the report already says, and also then to watch the further developments. One thing that was also highlighted in the questionnaire was on Edge, that currently for the tech buyers, it's not so relevant that Edge has opportunities in latency, but more that can better handle the security aspects. That's maybe interesting. And what also I like but have to understand still a bit better is upskilling as an adoption pathway, which Leo mentioned. Yeah. And a conclusion, if I now have to do a conclusion, is what was also part of the presentation from Leo, that we already have the ingredients to build this federation that was highlighted also in the questionnaire, but we need to align better to really get the technical tools also to business models that really make this federation accessible and buyable by the tech buyers, and therefore we need to connect. And CISERO is here to support you on that, we now better understand how we can do this and how we can support you on the road to market adoption. And I think from that perspective, I hope this webinar was also interesting and successful for you. Thank you to all of you. You will receive afterwards summary of the webinar, and it will also be available on the CISERO website, of course. And as Marcello and Leo mentioned, there is still time to fill out the survey that's on the CISERO web page to give more input, your insights for the further developments. Thank you to all of you, and have a good afternoon.